All right. So from today, we're going to start implementation of automation framework. So as part of today's session, first we will see the introduction, like what is framework and how many types of frameworks are available, and then we'll discuss what are the different steps we need to follow while designing the framework, and what are the different phases which we have, and then we will discuss about how we can choose test cases for automation. So let's say we have 100 test cases which are already written manually, then how we can choose the test cases for automation. So, and what are the criteria which we have to follow? So that we will discuss. And finally, we will also try to explore the application test cases along with the application. So what type of application we are going to automate, and screens and workflows and so on. So we'll just get familiar with these options today, and then we'll start developing the frame. So first thing, what is automation framework? Okay. So what is an automation framework? So simple definition. So framework, in the framework, we can organize automation project related files or folders in proper manner. Basically, we can say organizing the files which are there in our automation. So normally what kind of files we can create in automation? Normally, so far we have created so many files, right? Test cases, page object classes, properties files, utility files, test data files, report files, XML files. So these are and screenshots. So these are all different files which we are created in a automation. So to maintain all those files in the proper structured manner, we will need a framework. So we need a framework. So we don't club everything into one single place. Okay. So let me give an example. Suppose you have in your computer, you have different type of files. Let's say you have a personal files, you have audios and you have videos and you have some other files. So you don't put everything in one single folder, right? So you will separate them. Like you will put all video files in one folder, and then other personal files in another folder, and audio files in some other folder, or important files in some other folder. So why we will divide them into multiple folders instead of keeping everything in one single place? Because maintenance will be very easy. Suppose tomorrow if you want to search for some particular file, some personal file, so you can go directly go to personal documents and there you can find your file. Suppose if you want to find some any video file, then directly you can go to video folder, then you can find the video file. So basically, the maintenance will be very easy if you split the files, or if you split the similar files into different folders, right? The same concept is applicable in framework also. In the framework, so whatever files we are going to create, we will have a separate packages or separate folders, and we will keep all of them in those particular folders. Suppose if we want to maintain a test cases, we will create a separate package for test case, and that package contains only test cases. And suppose to maintain the utility classes, for that we will create a separate package. There we will maintain only utility classes. Similarly, we create a test data folder which contains only test data files, like Excel files we will keep. Similarly, properties file will keep in one single folder. Screenshots will keep in one single folder. All XML files we can keep in one single folder. So we will maintain similar type of files in different folders, and so that we can easily maintain the project, and we can easily modify the test cases. You can easily add new test cases, and you can apply reusability concept. That's the main important maintenance and reusability. So these are the main objectives. Suppose tomorrow if you provide your framework to somebody else, they should also able to read properly. They should able to understand what exactly you have written in your framework. So that is the main purpose of creating the framework. So the automation framework, the definition is we can organize project related files and folders in structured manner, or we can organized manner. Simple, we can call it as a framework. So the main objective of the frame. So what we can achieve with the framework is mainly three things we need to focus. The first part is, if anybody asks you why we need a framework, we can create a test cases normally, right? Like in the last classes, we have just created similar fashion. We can create why we need to go for framework. So the main objective of framework is reusability. Means what? If you create something, you should able to reuse multiple times instead of creating many times. we create only one time and we reuse multiple times. For example, utility files. Once you created a utility file, you can reuse in multiple test cases and data providers, right? So that's called reusability. So reusability is one of the most important feature which we need to make sure that reusability should be part of your project. So in reusability, once you created something, we should be able to reuse. We should also avoid duplication. Duplication should not be there in your framework. So suppose if you write some piece of code, you should not copy or paste the same code in somewhere else. That kind of repetition should not be allowed in the framework. So we should achieve the reusability. That's the first main objective. Second one is a maintainability is the most important. Maintainability means what? Suppose tomorrow if you want to add a new test cases on existing framework, you should be able to add it without any confusion. And if you want to modify the existing test case, you should be able to modify it without impacting other test cases or without impacting any other files in the project. And tomorrow, if you hand over the project to somebody else, they should be able to also go through your framework. They should be able to understand all the files, folder structure and everything, and they should also able to contribute themselves. So that is called maintainability. So once you created your project or framework, that should be maintainable for long period of time, right? If you use only 1 month, 2 months, unnecessarily, why we should go for automation and framework and so on? So not required. Once you automated your project, that should be available for long time. But changes keeps happening. That's not a problem. But even though if you keep changing something, but the entire project should not be changed. The entire project should be available for the long time. And during that time, we should be able to maintain. Means we can add a new test cases, remove existing test cases, unwanted test cases, or existing test cases we can modify. Right? That is all about maintainability. And the third part is readability, also most important. We should focus on these three items when you create a framework. Readability. Readability means what? Everyone should be able to understand, read your code. That much simple way you need to create. Okay. So nowadays people are making unnecessarily complicated things because, for example, let's say in automation, we can create our automation script, utility files, everything with simple core Java concepts. So the basic concept we can use. And if you're more familiar with the language, or if you're more familiar with the advanced Java concepts like collections or data structure or streams, lambda expressions, right? So if I use those concepts in automation, the automation cannot be readable, right? So suppose there are different levels of people will be there in team. So everybody cannot know everything, right? In our programming side, especially the testing point of view, there is no need of learning in-depth of programming. If you're a developer, complete totally, if your job is a developer, so then you can go to all the topics. But as a tester, you can simplify the code or you can simply write your automation test cases with the basic knowledge or basic skills of Java. But few people, maybe reason can be anything, but some people can project their stuff and everything. So they try to include so much of stuff like streams, lambda expressions, something like this. So normal people can't understand that. So that is unnecessarily making the complicated script. So that's not readability. So if whatever you have written something, suppose if you only can understand that particular code, what is the news? There is no use, right? Everybody in the team, everybody should be able to understand your code. So wherever the topic is really required, you can use it. Nothing wrong in that. But unnecessarily, do not complicate the code. Okay, with simple things, we can solve the problem. Unnecessarily, why we need to go with a complex solution to solve the simple problem? So that is not recommended. So keep that in your mind. So that's the reason people are having a lot of crazy because data structure unnecessarily we don't need. And collections, okay, some places we can use collections, lambda expressions, streams, these and all not mandatory to learn to automation especially. But if you learn, that is still fine. Okay. But make sure whenever you write something in your code, everybody should be able to understand, everybody should be able to maintain. And if they want to add new test cases, they should be able to add. And if there is a necessity to modify something, they should also be able to modify. So project means it is not only belongs to you, Project in the sense is a teamwork. So everybody should be in the a proper sync. Everybody should have a same level of understanding about the project. Your skills can be different, person to person skills can be different, but once you created something all together, everybody should be participated, everybody should be able to understand, everybody will take it forward. So that is the main thing. Reusability, maintainability, and readability. So whenever you design some framework for a project, these three things we need to keep in mind. Reusability means you should be able to reuse the component multiple times. We should not be duplicated, and test cases should be independent, and maintainability and readability. So these are the points which we need to remember. Now, if anybody asks you during interview, what is the main purpose of creating the framework? What is the main objective? Why can't we create test cases normally? Means we should able to achieve some objective. So that's the reason we need a framework. We need to maintain everything in proper structure, organized format. Okay. Now, what are the different type of frameworks are available in the market? There are so many frameworks are there. All frameworks we can categorize into two categories, main two parts: built-in frameworks and customized frameworks. Built-in frameworks and customized frameworks. Built-in frameworks and customized frameworks. So built-in frameworks means these frameworks are already available in the market and they're built-in. Built-in means already developed. Just we need to try to use it. For example, TestNG is also one of the framework. TestNG is a framework, so which is having so many features like parallel testing, parameterization, data provider, annotations, grouping, right? So these are all topics provided by TestNG. These are all different features are provided by TestNG. So which is a built-in framework. If you just install TestNG library, we will able to access all those features. Similarly, JUnit is also one of the built-in framework. So which is also having almost similar kind of features which are there in TestNG. Because initially in the market, JUnit was there. So after that, TestNG came into market. So a lot of people are migrating from JUnit to TestNG because whatever features are there in JUnit, all the features are there in TestNG. But in addition, there are some more features are there in TestNG which are not there in JUnit, especially parallel testing, report generation. So these topics which are not there in JUnit, but TestNG, we can do that. And Cucumber, which is also one of the built-in framework, which is supported BDD style of writing the test cases, behavioral driven development. So that again, we will discuss later, what is BDD, Cucumber, all those things. And the robot framework. Robot is also part of the built-in framework. So they provided some of the keywords. And by using those keywords, we can create our automation scripts. Built-in keywords they will provide. So the robot framework is also comes under built-in framework. And these frameworks will not support all kinds of languages. Some frameworks will support few languages. Suppose if you look at TestNG, JNet, these are purely related to Java. So if you're written automation framework or the entire code is in Java, and then you have to prefer either TestNG or JUnit, purely related to Java. And Cucumber, which is also purely related to Java. But if you want to follow BDD approach of test cases, there are different tools are available for different languages. Okay. So for example, if you want to use BDD with Java, then use Cucumber concept. Cucumber is a tool. And suppose if you want to achieve BDD in Python, then we have a JBehave. JBehave is another tool which is there. And Serenity, suppose if you are using C# in automation, then we have a Serenity. So different tools are available. Okay. So robot is another type of framework. So these are all built-in frameworks which are already there in the market, and they're just simply libraries which we can install as a third-party tool. Then we can access all those features and then we can create our automation test scripts. Okay, but only by using built-in tools, we will able to finish the entire framework because these are also frameworks. So by using built-in tools, can we complete the entire framework? Means no. We cannot achieve the full-fledged framework by using only built-in frameworks because there are certain things we should able to customize. So we should add something else apart from this. Suppose we are using TestNG framework. Whatever features are provided in TestNG, we can use all the features in our automation framework, but they are not enough. We need to add some more additional stuff into the project. So only built-in framework, only with built-in frameworks, we cannot achieve the 100% framework concept. So we need to add something else. We need to deploy some third-party libraries. We need to add reports. We need to do a lot of other things. Okay. So, but built-in frameworks will be very, very useful. Okay. But without building frameworks, we cannot achieve. We have to use built-in framework. On top of it, we need to add something, another stuff. And then it will become the customizer frameworks. So even in the customizer framework, inside this customizer framework, built-in framework will already there. But on top of built-in framework, we will add some more additional features. Then it becomes a customized framework. Okay, so everyone should be use one of the framework. That's a mandatory. So without using any built-in framework, we cannot achieve anything. So these are our built-in frameworks. Okay, so anyway, we are going to use TestNG in our frameworks initially. So later on, I will also show you how we can, what is BDD, how to work with the Cucumber. That is also we'll see. Nowadays, this is also more popular. And robot is supported both Python and Java, but it becomes very popular with Python instead of Java, because when I use robot in Java, there are more libraries are lacking. So again, we need to depending on some third-party things. So it is it will work full-fledged with Python. So Python is having more libraries, but when you come to Java, so that is not much preferred by people. So most of the people will prefer either TestNG or Cucumber when you're working with Java. And when you're working with Python, most of the people will prefer either robot or PyTest. PyTest is also belongs to purely Python. So that will not support any other language. Okay. So these are all built-in frameworks which are already available in the market. And now customized framework. So customized means we can create our own framework according to our requirement, according to the project, according to technology, based on our skill set. So by considering many factors, we will create our own framework. Sometimes budget will matter, right? So we will create our own framework. So suppose if the automation tool is open source and free, then we can go with the hybrid driven framework most of the times, because whichever tool comes free, that will not have full-fledged features. Definitely there are some features will be missing. So we will again depends on third-party tools, and we need to integrate with them. Then we need to establish a communication, right? So these are all possible only within the hybrid driven frameworks. Hybrid means many things we can integrate in one place. The combining multiple things, we make it as a hybrid. So customized frameworks are nothing but a user defined frameworks. We can create our own framework. So when I say user defined means that cannot be the same in everywhere. Suppose if you look at a hybrid driven framework in one company, that will not be the same for other framework which is developed in other company or another person. Okay, so customized frameworks will be little bit different. It is exactly not exactly the same, but there are certain things which is commonly available in every type of frameworks. If you look at 2 to 3 hybrid driven frameworks developed by different people or different projects, there are some core components which are commonly available for almost in every project. But apart from this, you may find something else. But there are some certain components which are commonly there in almost every framework. Okay, I have consolidated almost 5 to 6 projects, different type of automation projects. I have noticed or I have identified some common things. And by considering those common things, I have created my own framework, which is basically called hybrid driven framework. So if you learn this particular framework, whichever I'm going to show you, if you learn this framework, if you practice this, so tomorrow, if you join any company or if you look at any other existing framework, almost 80% of the stuff will be the same. Almost same. 80% of the stuff will be the same. Only 20% can be new or 20% can be old, but that is you need to explore. But 80% of the things will be similar if you look at any other projects. Okay, so if you understand 80% of the project, rest of the 20% is not a big thing. You can easily understand, you can cope up with the project and you can implement from the scratch, right? Everything you will able to do that. So that kind of confidence you will get. So I consolidated the similar stuff from multiple projects and I make my own project and the own framework. And if you learn it, you can easily understand at least 80% of the projects. Rest of the 20% you can easily explore if you understand 80%. Okay. So customized framework in the sense it is a user defined framework. We can create our own framework according to the project budget, complexity, team skills. There are many factors that are available. Okay, this will be discussed in many meetings along with the team and the leads and managers. And finally, they will come up with the framework, which tool we have to use, which framework we have to use, how many people should be there in the team. And all these things will be discussed in multiple meetings. So customized means what? You can create our own team, like modular framework, data driven framework, keyword driven framework, hybrid driven. These are all customized. Hybrid in the sense a combination, like modular with the data driven, can call it as a hybrid, or data driven with the keyword driven. Also, we can call it as a hybrid. Combination of multiple things is called hybrid framework. And especially when you're working with the open source tools, hybrid framework will be preferred because there is a flexibility to integrate some third party tool. Suppose the existing tool is not supporting something, you should be able to accommodate something else in your project. Through that, you can achieve your goal. So that type of possibilities are there only in the hybrid driven frameworks. Okay. Now these are the two kinds of framework, built-in and customized. Now to develop the frameworks, it is a step-by-step process. So we should not directly jump into framework. We should not directly create your test cases. We should not directly go and create a page object classes. No. So before creating the framework, there are certain stages. There different meetings will happen, different tasks we need to perform before starting the project or framework. So we will also go through the same phases step by step. I will show you what are the phases. In each phase, what are the activities we do. So once you understand the process, then we will follow the same process while designing our own framework. Okay. So this is not a 1 day or 2 days job. So this will take few days according to the timelines, and they discuss during in multiple meetings and come up with the plan, automation plan, and accordingly they will put into the action. Fine. So what are the different phases which we have to develop the automation framework? Or we can say stages or phases, whatever we have, or different stages in our automation. The first stage, the first and most important point, analyzing the application under test. The first point is analyzing the application under test. Means what? We need to first analyze the application. Application in the sense, whatever the build which is created by developer, that's called application. And what we need to analyze. Okay, you have an application in front of you. You're able to see the web page. You're able to see all the screens and everything. But what you need to analyze? What you have to? You have to analyze the screens. How many pages are there in an application? Okay. And in each and every page, what type of elements they have created? They have created more customized elements or built-in type of elements, right? So we need to understand the application in that particular perspective because we have to automate it. So when you're trying to automate, you will definitely get some challenges. So if you analyze the application, if you analyze the number of pages, if you analyze the different type of elements, you can easily plan before that. Like you can easily do some kind of research. How can we handle this type of element? Like that. Suppose developer is created some new type of element, new customized type of element. So how we can automate that element? So you can do some kind of a research. So you need to do analyzing the application. And in this particular phase, the main activity, what we will do is number of pages which we need to find out. So that if you know number of pages, so that you can plan how many page objects I can create, right? That's the main activity. Each page is having one page object class. If you know number of pages in your application, then you will know exactly how many number of page object classes you want to create. And accordingly, you can estimate the time. Accordingly, you can assign the team members. Let's say you have 20 to 30 page object classes. Suppose if you want to create your own self, it is very difficult thing, right? So if you exactly know how many number of pages, then you will know exactly how many page object classes are required. If you know how many page object classes required, then you can split them into multiple team members. Okay. So number of pages we need to first understand. Now, what are the elements? How many, what type of elements they have placed in a page and how we can automate and what type of elements they are. We need to focus more on this. And then third thing, what to automate, what we cannot automate. So this is another most important. What are the things we should automate? What are the things we cannot automate from the application? That we need to identify from the application perspective by not seeing the test cases. Just by seeing the application features and functionalities, what are the things we can automate? What are the things we cannot automate? You need to differentiate them. Okay, what are the things we can automate? Because everything we cannot automate in application, there are different things we should do manual testing. So that's the reason manual testing we cannot avoid. At least, suppose if you have 100 test cases, at least 10 test cases you should execute manually. Okay, so automation manual will go together. Automation itself is not 100% we cannot achieve. Okay, so what to automate, what we cannot automate, that we need to understand from the application. So these are the first phase. These are the activities we do in the first stage, analyzing the application under test. Now, once it is done, now the second step will start. Second phase, second stage. So once you're familiar with the application, once you're familiar with all the feature, workflows, and everything from application, then second stage, we need to choose test cases for automation. This is very, very important. Choose test cases for automation. You will get more important questions here during interview. Listen carefully. How to choose test cases for automation? Let's say you have 100 test cases. Will you automate all 100 test cases? No, never. Some test cases we have to execute manually. There are certain cases we have to execute manually. Suppose if you want to verify the colors of the page, font size of the page, captchas, graphs, okay, and these things you cannot verify. And if you want to compare the images, so these things we cannot do automate. So we do only manual testing on them. But how to choose the test cases for automation? Let's say you have 100 test cases. In among 100 test cases, how we can recognize what are the test cases should be automated, what are the test cases should not be automated, and what is the criteria we have to follow. So here there are few criterias, I'll tell you. And if you know these criteria, you can easily pick the test cases from your test suites. But before starting automation, you need to keep your all manual test cases ready. And that should be completed. Before starting your automation, the QA preparation phase should be complete. And whatever the phases I'm discussing here, this is purely related to automation. It is not related to the entire testing process. Okay. This is process is purely automation process. In automation, once you start your automation, what are the stages we have to follow? But before starting automation, we have to do a lot of things. We need to do test planning, and then we have to identify the scenarios. We have to write the test cases. We do a lot of reviews and getting the sign off, uploading test case in the tool. And we'll do some manual testing also. By the time we start automation, we need to do some kind of manual testing, right? Multiple rounds of manual testing, and we will get multiple rounds of the builds also. Initial builds, immediately we should not start automation, because until unless you will get at least 3 to 4 builds, the build will not be stable. Okay, the developer keeps changing many things. So if the build is not stable, you cannot start automation. So at least first few rounds of testing, you do manual testing. You will execute your manual test cases, SAS, smoke, sanity, and basic functional test cases. Once the build is stable, then along with the manual testing, you will also start doing the automation testing. Okay. So, but how to choose the test cases for automation? The prerequisite is whatever test case, you need to have a manual test cases ready. And from them, you can choose the test cases for automation. So what are the criteria? And if you look at here, there are, suppose, let's say 100 test cases you create. You have 100 test cases are created. In 100 test cases, suppose during interview, if anybody asks you, so is it possible to automate 100%? Can you automate fully? 100% automation is possible or not? Very popular interview question. Definitely asking question during interview, automation interview especially. Is it possible to automate the entire project or entire application? That means they're basically talking about 100% automation, right? Is it possible or not? Before answering that question, we need to understand what is 100% automation means. What is the meaning of 100% automation? Most of the people think 100% automation means automating everything in your application. No manual thing, nothing. If you're able to automate everything, that means 100% automation. No, that's not a right context. That's not a meaning of 100% automation. So let me give you some example. Let's say I have 100 test cases. Among in these 100 test cases, you will identify what are the test cases we can automate, what are the test cases we cannot automate. That we need to understand first. Okay, you need to clarify. Let's say in 100 test cases, 90 test cases, 90 test cases can automate. That means they are automatable. 100%. In these 90 test cases, we can easily automate, is possible. But there are 10 test cases cannot automate. So these things we need to first identify. What are the test cases can we automate? What are the test cases we cannot automate from our list? So once you have this clarity, then whatever test cases which are automatable, if you automate all 90 test cases, that is also 100% automation. That is actually meaning of 100% automation, which the companies are expecting. So nobody will expect to automate everything in your application. But whatever the test cases are automatable, you should be able to automate them 100%. 90 test cases are there, so 90 you should automate. 50 test cases are automatable, 50 you should automate. That is called 100% automation. So keep this in your mind, very, very important. So whatever test cases we cannot automate, leave them. That we can take care of in manual testing. But whatever test cases are automatable, if you are able to automate all 90 test cases, that is 100% automation. Okay, so that is meaning of 100% automation. So if now onwards, if anybody talking about 100% automation, or if during interview, if anybody asks you, just keep this in mind. So whatever test cases are automatable, if you automate 100 test cases, then that is 100% automation. Remember this. Yes, 100% automation is possible in one context. And you need to understand the other people context. In what context they are asking the question. Are they expecting the entire application should be automated? Or are they expecting automating only the few test cases which can be automated? So based on the context, we need to give the answer. So you should more clear on this. Don't tell one line answer for that. Yes or no. No. If anybody asks any question during interview, you should try to elaborate that answer. Don't give one single word and single sentence answers. Okay. Don't try to elaborate so that other people will know exactly what you know. If you simply say one word answer, one single sentence answers, they may not become convinced. Okay. So try to explain this. So if you're expecting the entire application should be automated, if you're considering that is 100% automation, no, that's never possible. But if you're expecting to automate whatever test cases are able to automate, that then 100% automation is possible. Okay. All right. So now I hope everybody's having clarity on this. Next thing. So how to choose the test cases for automation? So we need to follow certain criteria. What are the criteria? Whenever you create a test cases, we will provide some kind of a priorities, like the P1, P2, P3, and P4. We will give priority. Every test case having some priority. So based on the priorities, we have to choose the test cases. For example, let us say I categorize them into 4, all the test cases. Let's say some test cases, let's say you have 100 test cases. Some test cases comes under sanity. Some test cases comes under data driven. Some test cases comes under regression. Some test cases are different functional test cases, which are not comes under any of the category. So in 100 test cases, first we need to identify what are the sanity test cases. Sanity test cases means what? The basic functionality test cases. And if these test cases got failed, you cannot proceed further execution. So to execute all rest of the test cases, the sanity test cases should pass. Then only rest of the test cases you can proceed execution. So those type of test cases we will identify and give them as a P1 priority. P1 means these test cases we need to automate. The first priority goes to sanity test cases, which we need to automate. And the next priority will go to data-driven test cases or retest cases. Means what? if any test case is required set of test data or huge test data, there is definitely some repetition process is there. So those type of test cases, whatever test cases require some data or retesting is required, so we need to pick those test cases and then automate. The second priority will go to data-driven test cases or retest cases. Okay, so first priority is the sanity test cases we should automate. Once it is done, then data-driven test cases we have to automate. And after that, the third priority comes to the regression test cases. So these two we cannot avoid. Data-driven test cases, there is a repetition is there, so we must automate. Regression test cases also we should automate. What is the regression? Initial stage, you may not be identify the regression test cases. Why? Because you don't know what are the bugs you will get and what are the bugs the developer will able to fix. Because based on those, we will decide what test cases we should execute as part of regression. What is a regression means what? If developer is fixed something, some bug, so they will deliver the build or they deliver the fix. Then we have to retest that bug is fixed or not. And also we need to execute some other test cases which are impacted by this change. That's called regression test. So during the regression test cases, we will identify the impacted areas. Accordingly, what are the test cases are covering those areas, we will pick those test cases and automate. So that will be helpful in the next coming rounds of execution. Okay, so in the regression testing, we 100% we have to prefer automation, especially data-driven testing. In regression test cases, we have to automate. That's the third priority. And we cannot avoid these things. First three things we must automate, we cannot avoid. And the next, if you automate all these test cases, done, automation is done. Still, you have some more test cases pending and they can automate. Okay, if those test cases are able to automate, then give them to next priority. Any other test cases which we can automate. If you also automate all those test cases, then we can achieve the 100%. But most of the people, I have seen most of the projects, many people will give priority to the first three. By the time they completed all the test cases, the timelines will be reached. There is very less time to complete the project and deliver. So most of the times they avoid to automate the rest of the test cases. In those cases, they cannot achieve the 100% automation. Maybe 70% or 80% they can achieve, but at least 100% automation they cannot. Means what? 90 test cases are there, but few test cases are not covered in automation because of timelines or urgency and whatever it is. But first three categories of test cases, you must automate. You cannot skip them. Okay. So these are the criteria we have to follow while choosing the test cases for automation. First priority will given to the sanity. Second priority will given to the data driven. Next, the regression test cases. And for initial days, we can identify these two type of test cases. But regression test cases, you can identify on the process. So because once you receive the build from the developer, once you find out the bug, then developer will give multiple bug fixes. Whenever the developer is giving multiple bug fixes, at the time you can identify the regression test cases, you can try to automate them. So first three categories, mandatory, we cannot skip them. But the last one, we can decide based upon the time which we have. Okay. So this is the second phase, choosing the test cases for automation. So once you choose the test cases for automation, then third stage will start. That is design and development of the framework. So we will start design and development of the framework. So what is the difference between design and development here? Design means we will create a rough, as a blueprint. For example, we will assume the folder structure. In the folder section, so here we will maintain the test cases. Here we have to maintain the utilities. Here we have to maintain the test data. And here we will maintain the page object classes. So we will have a blueprint, the sketch, and that we will design initial stage. And that's called designing of the framework. So creating the, ultimately we can say the creating of the framework and folder structure is called design. That comes under the design part. And once the design is completed, everybody in the team should be aware of the design. And everybody should follow the same kind of a folder structure. because all the test cases you won't automate. Some test case will be assigned to someone else, some test case will be assigned to someone else, but everybody should work on same framework. So the folder structure should be similar. Okay, that's a design, whatever design you have done, that should be very similar. And development means what? Adding new utility files, creating the page object classes, creating more test cases. This is all part of the development. Okay, so design and the development. First, we need to have a design. Then we need to involve in the development. Means we can create so much stuff in the framework. It's a step-by-step process. And design and development of the frameworks. And main important thing, who will design the framework? So most of the time, the framework will be designed by the senior people. So at least who are having 3 years, 4, 5 years of 5+ years of experience. And they should also have some experience in the previous project, frameworks and everything. So they are mainly involved in this particular design kind of a thing. The rest of the team also will be involved, but majority of the role will be played by the senior people. So during interview, if anybody asks you, have you designed your framework? Then the answer will be yes or no. Depends upon your experience, depends upon your confidence level. So if you tell, I have designed my own framework, then they may ask more number of questions. And another thing is, I can say I contributed towards the frame. I have not designed the entire thing, but I have done some contribution towards the frame. What kind of contribution? I created page object classes. I've created some utility file. I have added some more test cases. I have executed in multiple regressions. This is all about contribution towards the frame. Designing is totally different. Contribution towards the development is totally different. So that is the answer you have to give. Depends upon your experience level and your confidence level. If you do not have confidence, they don't tell, I have designed my own framework, because it's very complex thing and they will ask more number of questions. If you're ready to answer, then you can tell. Otherwise, simply we can say, I've contributed towards the framework. I have so much team and I have involved in the designing, but I have not done the entire design myself. I've taken the help of other team members, and then we have together we completed the design part. Then development part, I have contributed so and so. That way we can explain during the interview. Okay. So design and development of the framework is another most important phase. And here it will take a lot of time. We need to spend a lot of time on this. And once the framework is done, design and development, now it is ready for execution. The next phase is comes under execution part. Execution part. So see, as soon as you written one test case, suppose you today you have finished one test case, execution of only that test case is totally different. But executing the entire test cases depends upon the requirement is totally different. Sometimes whenever you get from the build from the developer, you have to execute set of test cases. Right. So execution can be happen in the different levels. That is a different type of execution. And suppose you completed one test case today, newly automated, and execute only that test case and check whether it's properly working or not. That type of execution is different. So here execution will happen different ways, depends upon our requirement. We do execution. Mainly, execution will happen locally and remotely. These are two kinds of execution normally we do. Local execution, remote execution. Local execution in the sense what? Wherever you have written your code, let's say my entire project code is there in the Eclipse. So within your Eclipse, I can execute my code. That's our local execution. Remote execution means what? I can push our code in some repositories, remote repositories. And by taking that code, I will execute my test in some other place. That's called remote execution. You can execute your test cases remotely, some other machine, some other system, some other application, right? Some other place, some other environment, some other operating system. That's called a remote execution. And through Selenium Grid, we can achieve that remote execution. So that I will also show you as part of execution. And also executing the test case using Jenkins. Jenkins is a remote application, which is a part of DevOps, which is a part of CI environment. And the Jenkins will pull the code from the Git repositories and execute in the remote machines. That is also remote execution. So we need to take care of these two, local execution and remote execution. Both are required. So that part we will see. That is called execution part. And now the fifth phase, the last phase is maintenance part, maintaining the test. Okay, so maintenance. What is a maintenance means? In the maintenance, we will have the code in one common place. Let's say you have a team of 5 or 10 people. They're working on different things. They are different automated different test cases. And they created different page object classes. They created different test cases. They created different utility files, because same thing cannot be done by multiple people, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, everything is related to same project. Everything is belongs to one single project, right? So they have to integrate all of them and place it in one location, right? So that everybody is able to access it, everybody is able to pull it, everybody is able to do modify. And where we have to maintain that, called repositories. We have local repository and we have remote repository concepts come into picture. So local repository means individually everyone is having their own local repositories. There they will maintain the code. And at the end of the day, they push their entire code into the common repository or remote repository or global repository. So there the entire code will be available. So how we can maintain this local repository, remote repository, every day-to-day basis, whatever you do something in your automation framework, you have to make sure those changes should be part of your local repository and remote repositories. And that should be done during maintenance part. Also, once the code is available in the repositories, Jenkins is a DevOps tool, CI tool, which will automatically pull those test cases from the GitHub repository, which is remote repository, and execute in their environment. And that is the CI process will start. So we'll discuss all this entire process in the coming sessions. No need to worry about it. Okay. So maintenance is one of the main crucial role. So these are the 5 different phases which we have to follow while designing the framework. So everybody is clear so far. So because you have to know the process, that's the most important. Especially who is putting some kind of experience on your profile, they should know the process. They should more concentrate on the process, because until unless you really work on the projects, you don't know the process. At least you have to know, you can imagine the process. So that's the reason I'm going to each and every step in detail. Okay. So I hope everybody is clear so far. So what is framework? What type of frameworks are available? And what are the different phases are involved during the framework and so on. Now, let us talk about something about framework, sorry, something about application which we are going to automate. Okay, and then we will go through the same phases. Today we will finish this part. So first 2 parts we will finish today itself. Is simple step, because we already have test cases, everything is ready. I just go through them, and later on you can spend some time on them for analyzing and choosing test cases, all those things. Okay, so let me show you application. What type of application we are going to automate, what it is, what are the schemes are available, what type of test case we are automating, all those things. So in the market, most of the times only e-commerce applications we can easily access, because that's not much sensitive domain. But other domains, if you look at banking, insurance, finance, so these type of applications are more sensitive. So we cannot find a demo applications through internet. Only in the real-time projects, real-time environment only you will able to access those type of applications. But it's very, very difficult to get them through internet for practice purpose. But e-commerce applications you can get. There are so many number of e-commerce applications are available in the market, and demo applications are available. So you can get them and you can do some kind of a project, so that you can also gain some experience out of it and you can project them during the interview. So what type of application we are going to use is e-commerce application. We already seen this application many times, but we will go in depth of that application. So e-commerce application we are going to automate. E-commerce domain. Domain means what? Specific area. There are multiple domains are there. There are multiple domains are there. Can you give some example? Healthcare domain, banking domain, finance domain. What else? Traveling domain, traveling applications are comes under them. right? So education, insurance, telecom, yes. These are all different type of domains. Logistic, yes. So these are all different domains are available in the market. And application, if you take any type of application, which is belongs to some particular domain. Okay, that is also most important. So during the interview, what in which domain of applications you worked on. So that is also most important because based on that your experience, based on your domain experience, they can keep relevant projects. They can keep in relevant projects. Suppose if you have previous experience in banking domain, so then they try to put in your banking kind of a projects. And if you have experience on e-commerce application background, then they try to put in your e-commerce type of testing. So depends upon the domain is most because domain skills are totally different that you cannot learn, you cannot experience. You can just experience means you should work on this particular domain really, then only you will gain the domain experience. Example, I'll tell you in the banking or in healthcare, if you take, there are so many terminologies are there. Only if you're working on that particular domain, those terminologies you can understand. So especially in healthcare domain, it's very, very difficult to understand the terminologies. Normally doctors and consultants, they use some kind of a terminology, healthcare terms that we cannot understand. Only people they have those particular domains knowledge, they can understand what exactly they are. Okay, similarly in the banking also. In the banking, there are so many kinds of transactions we can do. Suppose if you want to send the money, there are different type of things are the IMPS, RTGS. Okay, there are multiple things are there, but we don't know exactly what are those terminologies. Only the domain experts, they know the exact things. So domain experience comes only through experience that you cannot replicate, that you cannot learn somewhere. Okay. So whatever application we are going to automate is this is e-commerce application. E-commerce application which we are going to automate. E-commerce domain. Okay. So whenever I say e-commerce domain, so what exactly this domain will take care? What exactly will happen in the e-commerce? What is the e-commerce application first? What the e-commerce applications will offer to the clients? Can anyone tell me what e-commerce application will offer? What kind of things the e-commerce applications will offer? Features. Yes. Online shopping applications. Any application you can take online shopping. It can be anything. They're all comes under e-commerce. If you buy something through internet, through online, that application comes under e-commerce domain. Okay. So in e-commerce application, the overall e-commerce application, we can divide into two parts. Yes, Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal. Okay, there are n number of applications are there. So nowadays, almost everyone is buying everything through online itself. So e-commerce applications are become very, very popular nowadays. Okay, in future also e-commerce domain will go very rapidly. So we can focus on that particular domain. Okay, so the main advantage of e-commerce application is global. If you go with any other domain, banking or healthcare, that is specific to organization. Suppose if you work on healthcare application, that application is very specific to that particular hospital or particular company. Suppose if you're working on banking application, that particular application, those features are specific to that particular banking. That cannot be used globally. But the advantage of e-commerce application is that e-commerce features are exactly the same. If you take any type of e-commerce application, Amazon or Flipkart, if you take anything, internal features are exactly the same, right? So searching for the product, adding to the cart, user registration, ordering the product, tracking the orders, checking the delivery status. These are all common in every type of e-commerce application. That cannot be changed. Right. So that is the reason if you know e-commerce domain, you can work on any type of e-commerce domain. It's not a big thing because the internal, the mechanism or the features or workflows are exactly the same. The UI can be different, but internally everything is same. So e-commerce is a domain. Okay. So e-commerce is, yes, e-commerce application. Yeah, it again depends. Okay. So based on the market requirements, they can develop, and specific to customer also they can develop. Okay. Most of the times what happens is they will be having some products. they customized according to their organization. They can change logo, they can change the products and everything, then they can use it. Customized product. So whatever we are going to discuss, this e-commerce application is a product basically that can be used everywhere in every company by doing some customizations. Okay. So now, if you take any e-commerce applications, there are two kinds of operations will be done: front-end operations and back-end operations. Any type of application, even if you take healthcare, banking, whatever, there are two kinds of operations will be there. One is front-end, another one is back-end operations. Suppose if you take e-commerce application, what are the front-end activities? Front-end operations. Front-end operations means what? As a client, as a user, I can do those activities. I can do those type of operations. They're all comes under front-end operations. So the front-end operations are accessible by the customers or by the users or by the clients. But the back-end operations are accessible only from admins. Only administration people can access the back-end operations. Front-end operations, everybody can access. Okay. So if you take e-commerce application, can you tell me some of the front-end operations which we can do? Front-end operations. Can you just list out some of them? Whatever is there in your mind, you can keep just putting in the chat box. What are the front-end operations normally we can see on the e-commerce application? Front-end operations, not back-end operations. Yes. So whatever you're saying is correct. So we can register an account as a new customer. That I can do. I can log into my application. That I can do. I can search for the products. I can choose a product and add to them to the cart. Add the product or products to the cart. Then I can put those products in the watch list. Means in future I can buy. Till then I can put them in the watch list. And then I can order the product. I can do the payment. And once I order the product, once I did the payment, I can track the product status, whether it delivered, delivery in the process is still not delivered. And after getting the product, I can provide the reviews of the product, right? I can comment on the product. So these are all front-end operations which we can do. And many more operations we can do. I'm just giving the main operations. So there all comes under front-end operations. And as a customer, as a user of the application, I can do all such type of actions. Okay. And we can also add, edit, delete product from the cart. Suppose we added some product, you can remove it, you can delete it, we can modify it, right? So these are the different type of operations we can do from the front end. Everybody is able to access it. Okay. Now tell me some back-end operations of e-commerce application. Back-end operations. Just list out what few, just 2 or 3. Back-end operations means only administrator can do those activities. Can anyone tell me what are the back-end operations or admins can do? As an administrator, as a back-end operation, I have to maintain the products information, right? How many products are there in the store? Only those many products should be visible on the front-end application. So that I have to check from the back-end, right? How many products are there? How many customers are registered? All registered customers information they have to maintain. All the products information they have to maintain. And whatever products the customer is ordered products information also we have to maintain, right? How many orders we already delivered, how many orders are in the way on the process, how many orders still not yet delivered to the customer, that information also they have to maintain. And store information they have to maintain, means how many products still there in our stock. Sometimes stock will be over, right? Some products, if I put some specific days, the product will be purchased very, very quickly, then stock will be clean. So in that case, they have to maintain the stock. And if all products are finished, then they have to buy new products. They need to add more products to in their stock. So inventory, reports, okay. And what are the products are buying customers and more products are buying by customers. What are the products are not much selling happen. So all this information, shipping information, they have to maintain. So A lot of other things, right? They are all maintained by the backend administration part. Okay, so packaging and everything will happen manually, but through the application, what kind of operations they do. So that is the main thing. So here, product information, customer information, order information, store information. Mainly these are the things. There are multiple things are there. Mainly I put some few things here. So these are all operations can be done only by the admins. Okay. So every type of application is having front-end operations and back-end operations. Front-end operations can be accessible from everyone, whereas back-end operations can be accessible only by the admins. So there are different applications will be designed. From accessing front-end application, there's a different application. And for back-end operation, there will be different type of application. But again, these applications will be integrated each other and they will be maintained the same database for both applications. Okay. So this is a introduction part. So what we are going to automate is front-end application we are going to automate. So we will pick some features, some test cases, some functionality from application, and we are going to automate them in our project. So while implementing the framework, I will show you few test cases, 4 to 5 test cases. All kinds of test cases I will cover, data-driven, sanity, everything. 4 to 5 test cases I will show you from the scratch. Based on that, you try to add more number of new test cases. I will provide all the list of test cases, the entire full-fledged Excel document I have. I will share the document and you will find out the test cases and try to automate them. Because there are hundreds of test cases I have. It's not possible to automate all 100 test cases within your time. So I will show you how to automate few test cases from the front-end application. And based on that, you can continue automating more number of test cases. That is your work. That is your job. Next 15 days, 1 month, take your own time and keep on adding more number of test cases because that is also part of your practice. Okay. Now backend operations. So we have a backend operations also, but backend operations we are not going to automate, but I will show you few functionalities manually, but we are not going to automate. So if you are interested, you can also do that, no problem. So let us focus on front end because I have all test cases related to front end only. I have not written any test cases for back end. So I focus on only. All right. So let me show you application. So we already seen many times the OpenCart application. So let us try to explore in deeper. What is this OpenCart application and all? So just type OpenCart, just Google it. Okay, so let me just go to Google and type OpenCart and see the description, what exactly it is. So if you look at this, OpenCart is an online store management system developed by Hong Kong-based OpenCart Limited. It is PHP based. Okay, you're not going to use that live application which is providing captures and everything. So I will provide another application, or you can install your own system. The entire web application you can install in your own system. I can go through. I'll show you how to install. Or else alternative, I can provide another URL. So you won't get any captures and everything. Okay. Right. So OpenCart is an online store management system developed by Hong Kong-based OpenCart Limited. So this is basically Hong Kong-based company. The name of the company is OpenCart Limited. So basically, this is the company owned this particular product. This is the product developed based on the market requirements. Means what? Anybody can get this product and customized according to their requirement. They can change the logo. They can change the number of products and all the information, and they can use it in their companies. And it is PHP based using MySQLi or PostgreSQL database and HTML component. So they're clearly saying what technology they have used in that application. They are using PHP for front end, and MySQL or PostgreSQL is a databases using as a backend and along with some HTML components. So its support is provided for different languages and countries. Yeah, this web application is also supported in different languages, they are saying. And this is freely available under GNU General Public License. And also it is saying, they are saying it's free open source tool, open source product. Okay. So this is a basic information about it was there in the market since April 2010, but there are so many versions they have released. Okay, we will get to that information also. Because if you want to put this in your project, in your resume somewhere, you need to understand or you need to write some description about the project. So that's the reason we need to understand this. Okay, so if you just go to their application first. Okay, so in this application, just go to demo link. And here they provided these two applications. One is for front end, other is for back end operation. One application is for front end operation, other application is for back end operations. Let me show you. So if you want to access front end application, you can click on it. I just open the new tab. So this is their front end application. So in this application, you can do all the front end operations, whatever we put here. These are all operations we can do in the front end application. It's very simple, dead easy. You can explore this application and you can play with that. You can just register your account. You can create your new account and then you can play with all the options. This is front end application. And when you come to the back end application, we'll see. I also opening another tab and we need to log into this. So username is demo. Even password is also demo. Everyone can access this application and click on the login. Now it is successfully logged into application. So if you look at here, backend operations, there are multiple things they can maintain. So you can just look at here. In the catalog, they will maintain the product information, categories of products and everything. And come to the sales. Instead, they maintain order information, subscription, returns. Some products they will return, right? So that information they will maintain. And customer information is maintained here. Customers, customer groups, approvals, all those things. We click on the customers. Here you can see the customers. So these are the different customers. So if whichever customer newly registered here, that information will store here. That will show you in the admin application. These are all registered customers. And at the same time, this data will be stored in the database also. But if you install this entire application in your local system, then you are able to access database also. But online applications, we do not have access on the database. Only we can see front-end application functionalities we can access. Back-end application functionalities also we can access. Okay. So you can explore these two applications if you want in depth. We will mainly focusing on the front-end application. But if you want to do manual testing, you can also look at the admin application. So you can also write so many test cases for admin application. You can do manual testing. Then you can automate some of the scenarios if you want. But backend application, most of the times will deal with the database. So database access is also most of the times we required to test this functionalities. Okay. So it will be like this. For example, in the front-end application, I will try to register an account. So you will get some acknowledgement. New user is created. How we will confirm that? We need to go to admin. And here you can see that user entry is there or not. And that is also not enough. You need to log into the database and check these user details are present in the database table or not. So that is called end-to-end testing. Okay. So when you do manual testing, even database testing also you should include. But we are not going to automate the database kind of stuff. That you need to do only manually part. Manual testing you have to perform. Okay. So end-to-end testing is nothing but the first part, second part, third part. For example, in the first front-end application, you can test this register account. You can register account. That is one test case. That is over. Now go to the administrator and log into admin part and check that register customer details are displayed or not. This is one test case. And now go to the database and check the table. This entry is there in the database table or not. That's the third test case. Now, if you combine these three, that becomes the end-to-end test case. So front end, you are creating a new customer. The same data is there or not in the administrator application you are checking. Third level, you are checking the same data present in the database or not. So these three should be properly synced together. That is called end-to-end test. Okay, got my point? So end-to-end test is combining multiple test cases and do one workflow. That's called end-to-end test. All right. So this is all about application. Now we are focusing on the front-end application. So I'm just going through some test cases of the front-end application, and then we will proceed further. So for automation, instead of using this link, I will provide another link. You guys can use that particular link. I will share that link here, because in the live application, they put some restrictions. With that restrictions, we cannot proceed for automation. So that's the reason. So this is a e-commerce, or you can say open cart applications. You can use this URL, no problem. Okay. So this is the one thing you can proceed with this URL. If I open this URL also, you will get the same application, no change at all. Exact same application they have installed. Okay, so you can see this. That logo will be different, but rest of the functionalities, registration, everything is the same. Many people have installed in that and they hosted in their own servers, because it's a product, right? Free and open source. Anybody can get it and anybody can host this in their own name of the domain. So this is a QFox. They have owned their own server and they kept this application. So what I have done is I have installed everything in my local system so that I can also access the database. Especially when you do API testing, the database must be required. So that's the reason when I teach API testing, so I need some APIs, real-time APIs. So that's the reason I have installed the entire application on my local system so that I can get access of APIs, backend and everything. So that also I will show you. So if you try to install, I will not recommend anything to try to install locally. Okay, but if you still want to have this in your local system, you can still install it. Okay, in real-time company, you don't install our applications. Okay, developer will develop the build and they will provide the instructions how to install, build information, steps, procedure, and everything. And accordingly, you will install that in your QA environment in the server. In the QA testing team, there is dedicated server is available. So you will deploy that product in that server, and through the URL, everybody in the team will be able to access it. And that is a normal process we will follow in the companies. So to install this OpenCart application, I have created a small document. And by going through document, if you want, you can install it. And even if you're not able to install, still that is not a problem. Still fine, you can directly access the live application. So this is the procedure. You need some exam third-party tool, because installing web application is not a simple thing. We need a lot of things. We need to install database. We need to install PHP. We need to install Apache server. There are multiple things we need to install to deploy the web application, any type of web application. Similarly, if you want to install this application, we need mainly three things. PHP required, MySQL database is also required, and Apache server is also, Tomcat server is also required. So if you do not have these three, you cannot install any web type of application. Similarly, this OpenCart is also required that. But if you install them individually, MySQL installation, Tomcat installation, PHP, very difficult thing. So we need to download them at different places. We need to install them and we need to deploy the web application on top of them. It's very complicated process. Normally, the IT teams will be taking care in the real-time environment. Okay, they will know exactly how to work with the servers, communication, all these things. But here I have simplified this by using XAMPP application. XAMPP is a small tool which is there, which is freely available internet. You can download it and install the XAMPP. So what is an advantage of XAMPP is, which is provided all three components by default. If you install XAMPP, by default, you will get MySQL, PHP, Apache. All three components by default you will get if you install XAMPP server. Okay. So I provided all the information here. So how to download this software? If you want to download this OpenCart, so you can open the first link. So it will go to their official website. If from here you can download. So if you click on, this is a cloud store, we should not download this. And download now is there, right? You can just go to latest, or you can click on release notes, or you can click on the previous releases, and you will get all the versions here. So the latest one is October 16, 2023, not this one. September, October. I think this is the one, latest one, which is got released. Don't look at the version number, look at the date. That's the most important. Okay, this is the latest version they have released. You can just click on this and it will download the software. Similarly, XAMPP also we can download. So if you click on this another link here, it will go here, and XAMPP also for Windows available, Linux also available, for Mac also available. So you can download and install an XAMPP software. And then once you install, you need to follow the procedure. So first you need to install XAMPP step by step. This is a process. I have captured all the screenshots. And at the time of installation, you have to make sure MySQL, Tomcat, all the default options by default selected, and to show you the location and everything, where it is installed, everything. So it is step-by-step process. And once I have installed XAMPP server, and it will provide something called control panel. I'll show you XAMPP I already installed. So when I open my XAMPP, so control panel looks like this. Okay, so this is a control panel. So here you can say Apache, MySQL, Tomcat, whatever components you need, everything is available here. So only thing is what we need to start whatever components we require. So you can select from them and you can click on the start. So we need to open this as an administrator. So let me open it. You can just right click, run as an administrator. Okay, so I can just click on start, Apache, then MySQL, and that should come in the green color. Okay, so that means it is started, and then Tomcat is also required. So you need to make sure these three components are keep on running. So once it is running, so your Apache, MySQL, Tomcat, everything is available. Okay, so then you can minimize it. You should not close it. And then you can start installation process. Okay, where is the document? So yeah, so make sure Tomcat is optional, but Apache, MySQL, these two mandatory. You can start it. And then step by step OpenCart installation. So once it is started XAMPP, then you can install the web application. So this is also a little tricky stuff. So if you're able to do that, go through each and every instruction properly and try to complete it, or else you can leave it, no problem. So this is not necessary for you. Okay. So the whole document I have created. So at the end, you'll able to access the local application. Now I have started my XAMPP application. I already done installation earlier. So if I click on this, you will able to see your local application. See, this is my local application. It is running on my local system. See all the features you can access. My account, go here. You can click on register, login, everything. This is localhost, OpenCart, upload. This is my local application URL. I can only access it. And similarly, I can go to the admin also. If you want to access admin, this is my local admin. So here you can provide demo, and you can access. And if you want to access the database, you can also access the database. So if you go before here, you can find the database link somewhere. Yes. Yeah, this is the link we have to use for accessing the database. When I click on it, it will connect to the database. Here you can see all the tables open shop. So these are the tables you can see. If you want to see the customer's data, you can go to OC underscore customer table is available somewhere. Here it is. OC underscore customer. So in this, you can find all the records. So here a number of rows, you can select how many number of rows you want. And accordingly, number of records will be shown. Currently, I have only 3 records in my application. So like this, you can also access the database. Okay, so this is the document you can go through and refer. If you are able to do this, you can do it. Otherwise, not mandatory. So if you install in your application local system, the entire application is in your control. So whenever you want to use, you can start exam server, you can start your application. And if you don't want to use it, you can stop them. So you can stop it and you can close it. The fully control in your control. And the second thing is you are able to access the database. Suppose in future, if you want to perform any database testing, you can access the database tables, all those things. And if you want to do API testing also. So all APIs you can access only through administrator. So that API access will be available only if you install the entire application. But if you're trying to access the online application administrator part, you can't access the API's information. So that also you can access, because I have used this for API testing sessions, API testing classes. So that's the reason I have installed everything on my local system. Otherwise, if you want to do only web testing, or if you want to do only Selenium automation, you don't need to install. Not at all needed. Okay. So you can still just use this URL and that is enough. I will also provide this document in future if you need this for API testing, because people who are following my API testing sessions, I have explained how to install, how to access the APIs, how to test the APIs of this OpenCut application. So for them, it is useful. You can go through the videos and sessions and you can do it. Okay, but if you face any issue in the middle of something, it's very difficult to find out, because this is not owned by us. So this is owned by somebody else. We are directly getting it. But in the real-time environment, this is not the process to install web application. So they will really install database, PHP, HTML, and everything. They will set up a separate server also. The application will be deployed in the separate server, and they will able to, the team will able to access it. That is a process. This is just a shortcut method. Okay, because we are just installing this only for learning purpose, demo purpose. So we just have one shortcut. Using XAMPP also, we can install web-based applications. So simply why we need to XAMPP tool? Because we can avoid installing the components which are required for web application. For example, I told you Apache, MySQL, Tomcat, these are all things required to install any web application. But if you want to download them individually install, it is very tricky stuff. So to avoid all the complex things, one single tool, XAMPP, we have installed, and then we have started this component. Okay. So this is the document. Now we understood what is an application, how we can access everything. You guys, I recommend to use this URL, everyone, for developing the framework. Okay. I will try to use my local application, but you guys can try to use this. But running automation script, you can do anyway. Just changing the URL, automation development script, everything. Whatever automation script I created in my local application, same test cases will execute on the remote application also. No change in the test cases, anything. Only the application URL will be different. Okay. Now, so let us see the test cases part. So I will share this Excel sheet, Excel file to everyone. So this is created during manual testing sessions. People who are already attended my manual testing sessions earlier, they already know this. But the new people, for automation testing people, I'll share this document. You can go through it. Okay, what is this document is? There are almost 300 to 500 test cases are there. So in the first test scenario sheet, I have written all the test scenarios which are related to the OpenCut front-end application. These are all test scenarios, not the test case. So for example, validating working register account functionality, 27 test cases I have written for this, for only for register account. For login functionality, 23 test cases. For logout functionality itself, 11 test cases are created. And forgot password functionality, 25 test cases are created. So these are all different scenarios. Okay, I have listed out here. You can go through them later. And for each scenario, I have taken register account functionality. For that, I have created another sheet called register. In this, you can find test cases which are related to account registration functionality. So here you can find test case ID, test scenario, test case title, prerequisite, test case steps, test data if is required. You can say applicable, and you can prepare the test data in another sheet, or else you can say not applicable. So these are the expected results. And actual result, priority, these things we will update after completion of execution. So these are all account registration test case, and which contains the positive test cases, negative test cases, UI test cases, everything. But all test cases we cannot automate. we will identify one test case which will cover the entire functionality. Means launching your application, go to the register link, provide all the details, submit, and check registry successfully, account is successful, creating or not. This is a one test. Okay, that we are going to automate from this particular sheet. From every sheet, you can take one or two test cases. No need to take all the test cases. Main functionality is working or not. And rest of them are you can do manually. For example, here I can say validate registration account by providing only mandatory fields. And validate thank you for registering email is sent to the register email address after registration is done. And validating register an account by providing all the fields. And validate different ways of navigating register account. These are the different test cases. Different ways. We need to cover all the scenarios. Right. But when you come to automate, you don't need to automate everything. You take one end-to-end flow. Launch your application, go to the registration page, provide all the fields, and submit the data and check account registration is successful or not. That's the main test case. It should work first, and then only rest of the test cases we can execute, right? So you need to identify that from every sheet, one test case you can take from one sheet. Like this login is there. In the login also I have created a few number of test cases. So like again, test scenario, test case title, prerequisite, test steps, test data, expected result. Okay, and then actual priority. So this is called test case template. So again, in the login also, there are multiple test cases. So what is the main test in the login? What is the main test in the login? We need to go to login page, provide valid data, valid username, valid password, clicking on submit, login should be successful. That's the main test that we should automate. But rest of the test cases here, we can simply do manual testing. See what are the rest cases I have written here. Validate login into application using valid credentials. Validate login to application using invalid credentials. Valid login to application using invalid email address and valid password. So we can cover all the test cases in one single test, which is data-driven test. We can create a one data-driven test, which will cover all the test cases in one shot. Valid data, valid username, valid password, valid username, invalid password, invalid username, valid password. So for every combination, they have created different test cases. We can combine everything into one test. But certain test cases we have to do manually. So validate login to application using keyboard keys. This we cannot automate. And validate email address and password text fields in the login page or placeholder or not. This is UI test case. Okay, validate login to application by browsing back using browser back button or not. Validate logging into application using inactive credentials. Validate number of unsuccessful login attempts. So these are all different things. Validate the copying of text entered in the password field. You can do manual testing on these things. But we need to identify one test case which will cover the main functionality from every sheet. From each sheet, we will identify one test. That is very simple. That's not identification is not a big thing. Because there are multiple tests in the login. So which one is the main test? When you provide valid username, valid password, it should be successful, right? That's the main test. If that is working fine, then we can continue the rest of the test cases. Like this, in the forgot password also, we can identify one. In the search function, we can identify one. Product compare, product display page, add to cart, wish list, shopping cart, home page, checkout. This is very, very huge document, guys. Almost 500 plus test cases are there all together. All sheets. How many sheets I have here is, I mentioned the test scenarios. Almost I have 40 to 41 sheets are there. Yeah, almost 38 to 39 sheets are there. Okay, so this is very, very huge document. So go through each and every sheet and try to go through all test cases. You will know exactly how to write the test cases and everything. But when you come to automation, as I said, the criteria, right? So based on the criteria, you will pick the data-driven test cases, basic functionality test cases, regression test cases. We will pick them from every scenario, few test cases, and we will try to automate. So according to our project, in our project, what I'm going to show you is I will take one registration test case and I will take login, one test case with valid credentials, and login data-driven test case also I will show you. And then some more test case search functionality, and product compare functionality, searching product, adding them to the cart, and ordering the product. That's again one end-to-end test case. That also I will show you how to automate end-to-end test cases. Altogether, 4 to 5 test cases I will show you how to automate, and rest of the things you guys can take care and proceed further. So the base framework I will show you from the beginning, from the scratch. I'll show you how to create a page object classes. I will show you how to create a utility files, test cases, property file, everything. So once the framework is there, so first we will pick one test case and 1 or 2 test cases initially. And based on that, we will design an entire framework. One framework is available, then you can try to add more number of test cases. We can keep adding more number of test cases. Okay, that is a process which we are going to do from tomorrow's session. So from today, what you need to do is you need to go through this Excel sheet and explore that application. What are the functionalities are there, what we can automate, what we cannot automate. Go through and explore it and get familiar with the previous concept, what we have learned during test engine classes, mainly page object classes, because the framework design itself will start from the page object classes. Okay, that is another most important thing. Just a second. So from the next class, we are going to start the framework. So I will just give you the brief idea how exactly we will create a framework and how it is going to create and how the structure will be. Let me show you just a second. Okay, so look at this. So this is a structure we are going to implement. See, we will create a page object classes, then we will create a test cases. And these test cases we will execute through XML files, multiple XML file we will create. And again, that we can execute through POM.xml. So the underlying layer, we will maintain utility files, test data files, resources files, and we will reports also will generate, logs also we will generate. So this is a part of development. This part is called execution. Reports, logs we will generate, right? That's a part of execution. Before that, this is the part of development. Creating page object classes, test cases, utilities, test data creation, resources creation. This is all part of development. This is the part of execution. And once the development execution is completed, then we will move on to the CI part, continuous integration. Then we will push this entire code into Git repository, which is our local repository. From there, we will push them into GitHub repository. And again, Jenkins will come into picture. So Jenkins is a continuous integration tool that will able to run our project by pulling from GitHub repository in the remote environment. So this is the entire thing we are going to develop in the next 4 to 5 sessions. And Selenium grid is also, I'm going to integrate this. This is a step-by-step process. Okay, you can see this is the folder structure we are going to create. In the next session, I will show you how to create this. And we will go step by step. 1, 2nd, 3rd. So in the first step, we will see how to create account registration, the basic test case, and then how to add logs to the test case. And then we will see how to run the test on desired browser, cross-browser, palette testing we will achieve. And we will read the common data in the config.properties file. Then we will add some other test case called login test. Then we will also add data-driven test case. So if we know how to automate data-driven test case, one test case, you can easily automate other test cases. Then how we can achieve the grouping test, how we can add external reports to your project, and how to run only failure test cases, and how to run our test case on the remote environment on multiple operating system, multiple browsers. That's called grid. Okay, and then finally we will see how to run our test cases. This is the execution part. Maven pom.xml through command prompt to run.bat file. Then how to push our code in the Git GitHub repositories. And finally, how to run our entire test case suite from the Jenkins. So these are all step-by-step process. In the next 4 to 5 sessions, we will spend good amount of time to develop this particular framework. The entire framework we are going to develop. Okay, and once it is done, framework is there. So then you can keep adding more number of test cases in this. Only page object classes you need to add, test cases you need to add newly, and rest of them same. They will not change. They are only one-time job. Okay. So from tomorrow's session, we will continue to that. This is the introduction part. I will share this document. The framework document I will share later. Once I've started, then I will share it. So for today, go to the application, explore the application, and go through all the test cases so that you will know exactly how to write all these things. and then we will proceed further in the tomorrow session. Okay. So that's all for today. So let us stop here and we'll continue tomorrow.